Melissa Harris Lacewell.
Yeah, I absolutely agree that electing another president whose path to the White House is basically through either parental or familial connection is an absolute travesty for our democracy. Our democracy should not read. I don't want my daughter, who's 6 now, to go off to high school and read, a story that says Bush, Clinton, Clinton, Bush, Bush, Clinton, Bush, Clinton, Clinton, Bush, Bush, Clinton. I actually absolutely agree that we have to have a deeper bench in American democracy, and that's part of the reason that I'm a strong supporter of Barack Obama. This is not, I think, the moment to suggest that one is owed the presidency, that there is kind of a natural line of succession. I think that's exactly what we don't want in this country. What we need is a real conversation with people who are willing to be honest about sort of all of the elements of who we are as people, our citizenship, our race, our gender. And I will say that I'm really offended by the ways in which the Hillary Clinton campaign has not taken the high road on this. They've consistently used ways of thinking about her as Bill Clinton's wife. You cannot have it both ways. You cannot both claim this sort of role as independent woman making a stand on questions of feminism and claim that your experience begins as First Lady of Arkansas. You simply have to stand on your own or not. There are dozens of white women in this country who I would be a huge supporter of for the American presidency. The president of my own university would be at the top of that list, but not someone who is making this claim towards being president as her right as a result of her relationship with a former president. I think that's exactly what we don't need in third-wave feminism.
Gloria Steinem.
Well, I do think that we need to be able to understand the value of all experience, including that experience which has been limited too much by race or by gender. And for instance, there is a move at a populist level to attribute an economic value to the work of caregiving, which is 90% done by women, but by some men, at replacement value, and make that deductible if you pay taxes and, refundable if you don't. To understand the value of 2/3 of the work in the country, which is caregiving work. So just because it is a female role or just because it is a role that has been limited by race does not mean it was not a valuable. We need to be able to value that as well. But here's my idea. There are good feminists, I think, and good people inside all 3 campaigns. And that is a first, because all of the candidates are, we have differences, big differences with all of them, or at least I do, but they're pretty good people. Their heads and their hearts are connected, and the issues are not too bad. So, I'm hoping that because there are good feminists inside all 3 campaigns, we can join together and keep them from attacking each other.
I'm Amy Goodman. As we talk about race and gender in presidential politics, our guests in Princeton University, Melissa Harris Lacewell, Associate Professor of Politics, African American Studies at Princeton, and joining us in our Firehouse studio is Gloria Steinem, who wrote a New York Times op-ed piece. And just for the record, the beginning of that piece read, and let me just bring it up right here so I correctly quote it. It says, "The woman in question became a lawyer after some years as a community organizer, married a corporate lawyer, and is the mother of 2 little girls ages 9 and 6. Herself the daughter of a white American mother and a black African father in this race-conscious country. She's considered black. She served as a state legislator for 8 years and became an inspirational voice for national unity. Be honest, do you think this is the biography of someone who could be elected to the United States Senate? After less than 1 term there, do you think she could be a viable candidate to head the most powerful nation on earth?" That's the beginning of that quote. Melissa Harris Lacewell, as we were ending right before the segment closed, you wanted to say something.
Well, only that, I am an unmarried working mother. I certainly understand in a very intimate way, the power and the value of domestic and caretaking work. But I also know very clearly a history that I believe Steinem's piece attempted to distort, and that is that as white women moved into the workforce, much of that caretaking work did not go to white men who sort of took up and helped out, but it fell on women of color, African African-American women, immigrant women, who stepped in to do much of the domestic labor and child care provision so that white women could, in fact, become a part of the workforce. So to, for example, make an argument like black men had the right to vote long before white women is to ignore that black men were then lynched regularly for any attempt to actually exercise that right. I just feel that we have got to get clear about the fact that race and gender are not these clear dichotomies in which you're a woman or you're black. I'm sitting here in my black womanhood body knowing that it is more complicated than that. African-American men have been complicit in the oppression of African-American women. White women have been complicit in the oppression of black men and black women. Those things are true. And so to pretend that we could somehow take them out of the conversation when a white woman runs against a black man, when she tears up at being sort of beat up by him, when her husband can come in and rally around her and suggest that we need to sort of support her because she's having difficulties while Barack Obama is getting death threats, basically lynching threats on him and his family. These are, for a second wave feminist with an understanding of the complexity of American race and gender, to take this kind of position in the New York Times struck me as, again, the very worst of what that feminism can offer. In other words, division.
Gloria Steinem.
Well, I was trying to be, and I think from the response I've been getting, I was mainly taken as unifying. And the end of the piece, the context of the piece is that we need to take all kinds of restrictions seriously. So, and I think I wish the rest of the paragraph about the black man getting the vote first had been there, because in fact, as Sojourner Truth pointed out, if the coalition had remained together and white and black women had remained part of the drive for universal adult suffrage, it's possible that there would have been less violence faced at the polls, because there would have been white women and black women coming to the polls together if the coalition had stayed together. So, my argument is for coalition and staying together, and I must say for conversations like these. I mean, I think, we're conversing through a screen here, but I felt there was some more understanding now than there was when we started out, and we need to have more of this conversation. And since I really believe the historical pattern is going to obtain and Obama is going to be the candidate, in fact.
You do think that?
I do think that, yeah.
What makes you think that?
What historical pattern?
I think the historical pattern of military leadership in the White House, for instance, which usually has been men, and all of those things. So we're going to end up working in coalition, and this is, in any case, the first election of the 21st century, which is a positive thing to me.
Professor Harris Lacewell.
Well, again, this is a bizarre reading of history, this notion of sort of African-American men somehow standing over and above white women. I'm just not sure exactly what history is being claimed here, particularly in electoral history, where we know that there are far more white women in both the House of Representatives and in the U.S. Senate than there are African-Americans, either men or women. So it's an odd sort of claim to make that Barack Obama's gender is this kind of clear, straight line. What I do agree with is that we ought to be in coalition. But I think we've got to be in coalition on fair grounds. Part of what, again, has been sort of an anxiety for African-American women feminists like myself is that we're often asked to join up with white women's feminism, but only on their own terms, as long as we sort of remain silent about the ways in which our gender, our class, our sexual identity, it doesn't intersect, as long as we can be quiet about those things and join on to a single agenda. So yes, I absolutely agree we must be in coalition, but it must be a fair coalition of equals, and it's one of the things that's exciting about Barack Obama's campaign, working on it in New Hampshire, seeing it at work at Iowa, being part of meetings here in New Jersey, is in fact that you cannot pick what an Obama supporter looks like. Obama supporters are young and old, black and white, male and female, and it is in fact the most sort of nurturing and coalition building space I've ever had an opportunity to do political work in.